Kenower for Author Magazine, and in this month's interview, I had a fascinating conversation with Michael Elias, author of the new suspense novel You Can Go Home Now. We talked about his very interesting life, how he moved from acting on the stage to writing for television and films to eventually now writing fiction, as well as his relationship with some of entertainment's greatest luminaries, including his long relationship with Steve Martin. Enjoy. All right, Michael. Well, welcome to the show, such as it is. I always like to begin. How is I always think quarantine is not the worst thing to happen to a writer, maybe, but how is it for you personally?
It's not the worst thing that can happen to a writer. It's actually pretty good. And you have to be careful to whom you admit that to.
Right.
It's okay. I feel badly for my son. I feel bad that we can't travel, we can't see friends in person. But for me, it's not bad. I mean,
Right.
it's really not bad. And I'm forced to, or I get to, my writing, a lot of my writing is the principle of avoidance. So I do everything I can to not write until I've done all the things that I can possibly do. And quarantine means I can do less of them. So I can't jump up and go to the hardware store, change a light bulb, whatever it is, and that's good for my writing.
Right.
And what I eventually run out of stuff to do, and then I have a really good work session. But that's kind of my.
So that's interesting. We're talking here for your novel, but you've had a long and interesting career that has taken you in many different places, many different directions. Has that relationship to writing always been the case, or was it just when you moved to fiction?
I think it was the two things. One is a good deal of my nonfiction writing, my screenwriting and television writing, was with collaborators. So you're forced to work. You can't, you got somebody saying let's keep going, or you can say let's keep going. The excuses are less. So writing with somebody is easier in terms of motivation and all that.
Right. Well, so let's back up. Because theater, you started going to New York to pursue acting, yeah?
Yes.
And stage acting, or just any acting?
Any, but I started in stage. I started in my first break, as it were, was in the Living Theater. And that was the
Brig, right?
Yes.
Wow. It is so funny. So very quickly, I haven't thought of that play forever, but in high school, I was a part of a theater competition where high schools would each do one-act plays. And I think we did some Moliere thing. And the school that won did a version of The Brig.
No kidding.
Yeah, they used all athletes, all these like jocks who would never, but it was great. I gotta say, it was so riveting from that first to that last moment. If you're not familiar with it, folks. So you performed it? Did you help write it, or you just
No. I was cast in it. It's a play about a Marine Corps brig in Japan, and I auditioned. Somehow I got an audition, and they said, "Yeah, you can be in it." Rehearsals start Monday. I ran home, and literally ran home with the script, and I told my wife, I said, I'm in this. I got a job. She said, "What's your part?" I said, "Prisoner number 5. Oh. And then we went through the script and we couldn't find prisoner number 5.
What?
Because very few people had lines. It was just all being prisoners lined up.
Right.
Anyway, I think they switched me to prisoner 8, and that was actually a good part. And the best part of being prisoner number 8 was he was released in the middle of the second act. So on Saturday nights, we would get paid
Right.
and cash. And if you were first in line, you got your full salary.
Oh
But
no.
if you were last, there may not have been any money left in the box
Right.
office.
Right.
So on Saturday night, sometimes, because I was always first in line. I didn't come down for a curtain call. I just stayed there so I could get my full salary. And guys would come up to me and say, could we switch parts tonight? I need the money.
Oh, the glamour of theater, right?
Yeah.
But
So I stayed with the Living Theater for a couple of years. I went to Europe. I went to London. We did the play in London. And then I came back and was involved in the off-Broadway scene of Judson Church, La Mama, Cafe Chino, all those little churches. I mean, churches and St. Mark's Church. And then I tried to, then I got into improvisational theater, which led me to comedy, because there was a guy in the the improvisational class, and we became a comedy team. And we were comedians, and we wrote our own material, and we were moderately successful. But we did make it to the Johnny Carson show.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did 4 or 5 Johnny Carson shows, and we were an opening act for singers and rock and roll. And
Right.
we used to open for the Turtles. Remember the Turtles?
Oh, yeah. You bet.
So we used to come out to 2,000 people screaming, "We want the Turtles! We want the Turtles!"
Right.
And
they got you.
And some producer in New York, in Hollywood, saw us, called us up, and said, "Who writes your material?" We said, "We did. We do." He said, "Would you like to come to Hollywood and be writers?"
Yeah.
And that's how we came to Hollywood.
That's how you did. That's so interesting.
Okay, I told you the whole story, right?
Comedy is interesting, and I do love watch. I'm picky about the stand-ups I watch, but I do enjoy them because I feel like I'm drawn to the writing required to do comedy, because it seems like you need such economy. You don't have you need to hit the jokes. And I mean, you can wander around, but you're really best not to. And it seems like a great training ground, one of many great training grounds for writers. Did you experience it that way?
Yes, I would say so, because I think I'm wedded to making the experience interesting, whether it's listening to me as a comedian or reading what I wrote. And economy is important, and not wasting time, not boring people, I think is really important. And comedy also, I think, as you know, it needs surprise. And I think that's one of the things I think in fiction I want to aim for, is to always surprise the reader. Yeah.
So that's interesting. It's absolutely true. And because of course the reader's not there with you, right? And so what are you tuning to that says this will surprise them? If you can answer that.
I don't know. Once I was writing in a room with a bunch of writers, and there were these 2 real vets. They had written for Jack Benny. Wow. They actually had written Balzer and Perrin, and they had written the Your Money or Your Life. You remember that one?
I don't.
Jack Benny is yeah. It's a radio sketch where he's a gunman. Guy Roberts sticks a gun in his chest and says, "Your money or your life."
Oh, right.
And there's a long pause. And the guy says, "What's it going to be?" And Benny says, I'm thinking.
Right. He wrote that.
Yeah, these are the guys who wrote it.
Wow.
So we're working on a sketch, and it's not going well. I don't remember what the sketch was, but all of a sudden, Perrin says, hey guys, I got an idea. What if we make her a monkey? And it was so crazy, so far out of left field. But the idea of reaching that far to challenge what you have, what if we make her a monkey? I try to, I think that's very useful. Anyway, that's
No, that's interesting. Well,
yeah.
because I always think of, when I think of comedy and writing in general, I write personal essays. They're not as funny. Sometimes they're kind of funny, but I'm always doing the same thing. Something happened to me, and then I'm trying to look at it from the point of view that will be the most interesting, the most inspiring, the most compelling. So I just take the event and I kind of turn it and turn it and turn and say, oh, I want that in. And I did write comedy too for a while with my brother, and I felt we were doing the same thing. What is the funny point of view on this thing? How do we, because you're always looking at life until you say, that's the part I want to focus on. Does that resonate?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, um, I don't know. I just think that I was really lucky to work with a lot of good comedy writers who were mentors and uh, taught me so much. These guys, Benny writers,
Right.
uh, working for Bill Cosby, working for, and being in a room with him and coming up with ideas.
Oh,
He would
Steve Martin
like
too,
and
yeah?
Steve Martin, yeah, and a guy named Ed Weinberger who created Rhoda and
Yeah.
worked on all those great shows. These guys were great, and a lot of them, not Steve, but a lot of them wrote jokes. They had to write jokes, and that's the most economical. They're
Yeah.
couplets in those days. That's what
Yeah.
they were. So they were great.
Steve Martin I loved Steve Martin, and was also a huge fan of his when he came out. I was a younger person, but he was like one of the only, he was the only comedy show I ever went to, was his White Suit tour when I was like 12 or
Oh yeah,
13.
I
Somehow
may
I
have
went
been
to.
there. And yes, he was like me. He was a philosophy major in college, uh,
Mhm.
and I think uh, what his act was, it was almost a writer's commentary on comedy.
Yeah, it was. I always felt like it was kind of meta, kind of observing what was happening. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's what. And he it was interesting in the 80s or 70s and 80s when he was at the top of his as a comedian. Uh, he was apolitical,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was another thing that meant he was not in the mainstream of comedy, but that was a purposeful, a real decision on his part, and I applaud him for it in a lot of ways. And he was great. He was great.
So, like Steve Martin, you've done a lot of different things. So you wrote, did all this television writing, did screenwriting. Now you've moved to the novel. Uh, I can't imagine it so, but you never know. Were you intimidated by the novel, or did you think, it's just another story? I can do this,
Mm,
or something in between?
something in between. I've been going through a lot of my stuff, and I realized I was always writing from the time I was in junior high school.
Yeah.
I just never thought it would either be possible to be a writer,
You didn't know any,
or
probably, did you, when you were young?
no.
No.
I just did it.
Right.
I think also that I was writing all the time, and I was working as a writer all the time, or not all the time, since I came to Hollywood in my late 20s.
Yeah.
It took a long time for me to become a writer.
To to really feel like that's what you were.
That's right. Then I think that had to come through writing the novels and the first one, and then I found that it was something I really enjoyed, and I really felt free in a way that nobody else could tell me what to do. When you're writing in Hollywood, or if you sell something, they own it and they can fire you, hire somebody to rewrite you, tell you to rewrite it. And if you don't like it, they can fire you, except unless you're a playwright. That's another thing. When I wrote my first play, Paul Mazursky was the director. He directed this play I wrote. And at one point he said, I'm really not happy with the ending. And I said, well, I like it. He said, well, I really think you should change it. And I said, well, I don't think so. I'm not going to change it. Right. And he said, well, if you don't change it. And then what this conversation was, if this was a movie, you would be out on your ass in a minute.
Right.
We would fire you.
Right.
The discussion would not get this far where you would say, I'd like it. Right. But this was a play. Yeah. This is a play we were doing in a little theater in Hollywood. So I said, well, I'm not changing it. And he said, well, if you don't change it, you're going to have to find another director. I said, okay, I will. And we didn't change it. We stayed friends and everything. But that was...
Oh, and did he still direct it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? You called his bluff.
I called his bluff. This one I had, which is about, this one comes out of many conversations about the notion of revenge that we have.
Yeah.
And its place in our society, where it is idealized in all our fiction and our movies and television, and the good guy gets even, and yet at the same time we're told, for very good reasons, this is not something that we are supposed to do in a civilized society. And I thought about how to examine that. It's always, and then put it in the context of someone who has been so brutally, the heroine whose father was murdered, and then see if I can have her confront that in a situation where there are all these people who are also being brutalized, abused women. So that's how it all came about.
And we need to move some paper. That's the book right there. You got to hold it up and show it to everybody.
Oh, here it is.
Let everybody know. That's right. There you go.
Okay,
there it is, people. In case you didn't, it'll be shown, but there it is. Very good. Yeah, as long as you got it there.
Oh, I have a picture that I found.
What's that of?
It's me and my Jaguar when I was. You know what? Can you see it?
I can. Kind of. Yeah, I can't. You don't look so clear, but the car looks great.
Isn't it a great car?
Oh,
Steve Martin gave me that car.
No, really? Oh,
yeah, God. Because I was writing material, and he said, I was just having fun with him. I was writing stuff for him. And he said, I got to figure out a way to pay you. This is when he was a writer on a TV show.
Right.
I said, well, I saw this Jaguar. Could you buy it for me? It was $5,000. He said, okay. I bought it.
Really?
I had this thing.
Did it run?
Not
Jaguars.
Well. No. I had a phone number written down to call help. It was terrible. The choice of writing the first person as a woman was pretty
intimidating, maybe.
Yeah, and then it's not that I wasn't afraid to do it. As the question is, I'm afraid that I get it right.
Right.
And in making sure I got it right, I had to submit it to women.
Yeah.
And at first they said, no, you didn't get it right. Which I didn't expect it to, but I kept at it, and I think I succeeded, or I've been told that I have. So that was it. The second thing is you can't, because it's about battered women's shelters, you can't go in.
Right.
I can't, they don't let men in them, and that's fine. So my research was reading and talking to women afterwards, but not being able to actually go in. So I had to kind of create it.
Right.
That was, and what else was hard? I don't know.
Maybe that was it. That's just, I mean,
maybe
every
that was
day has
it.
its own challenges, right?
You know, after it's finished, you think, you look back and say that was easy.
Oh, yeah.
Then you start the next one.
Right. So
Yeah.
actually, that's my other question. What did you assume? I assume that you want there to be a next one. Yeah. You're not.
I'm sorry?
I assume you want there to be a next one. Yeah.
Yeah, not a sequel, but a next one.
Right. A next book.
Yeah.
So what did you learn writing this one that you think you might take to the next one?
That's a really good question. I think, and I'm writing the next one. And the thing about the first one was that it's in the first person. So this, you get to hear everything that this woman is thinking.
Right.
And the next one isn't. So I'm having a hard time, really hard time getting my guy, my hero, to tell me what he's thinking.
Naturally.
It's hard because I want to keep, he's moving, he's in action, but he's not, I don't have him reflective yet.
Right.
That's what I'm working on. And it's hard.
It seems like, I mean, the crime novels I've read, especially since doing this job for the last 10 years or so, first person, if I haven't, my loose poll in my head says it's favored by it within the crime detective genre for sure. It seems like it's more prevalent than, say, in other genres. Do you think that's fair, or maybe I'm mistaken? Yeah. Maybe for that reason in part. Because there's so much action, it helps to have it in the first person, so you can fluidly get their thoughts in.
Yeah, that's. But this one I couldn't, because for various reasons. But no, I can't. I can't with this one, and I couldn't with the first one, the Peruvian thing. But this one, the one I'm writing now, is it's set in Hawaii, in Maui. And it's a murder mystery.
You got some research you got to do.
Yeah.
you better, once you can fly, you got some research to do.
Yeah. The internet is pretty amazing, though, if you have to do research. I mean, what does the exterior of the American embassy in Lima look like?
You can find it.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? And then what does it look like inside? Bing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Every once in a while, I think, like, what was it like for Joyce writing Ulysses with just his pen and his, this huge and all the rewriting, and I just editing and out it goes and out, because when I started writing seriously, I had a computer. It was an old computer, but it was a computer. Yeah. And it made it easier, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's just as I said, the idea of research where you can get anything you want. I mean, he goes to a donut shop. Oh, I can find the donut shop in Queens.
Right.
Get the menu. I can get the menu and say, this is exactly what donut she bought.
Right.
So it's pretty extreme. Yeah, it's great.
All right, Michael, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
One more question. And so, first of all, I should say, I assume, like all the writers I know now, my friends, I feel so bad for them who've got books coming out now. They can't go do the book events, et cetera, et cetera. So I assume you're doing things like this where you're Zooming and doing whatever virtual work.
Yeah, well, you're my first Zoom. Thank you very much. And I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
But I have filled out a lot of questionnaires. I can tell you that. And I think some of them will be followed by by Zooms or whatever. I think a couple of bookstores are going to do virtual interviews. even one in Arizona.
Sure.
At
Oh yeah.
Mystery Bookstore.
There's a famous one in Arizona, a crime one. It's
Yeah,
called Poison Pen or something.
Poison Pen.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I'm going to do that one,
Oh,
and
good.
I'm going to do Diesel here. And I just watched a friend of mine, Amy Lou,
Oh, yeah,
do
yeah. I'm
her.
gonna be talking to her soon.
She's great.
Oh,
She's
good.
great.
Yeah.
And so I watched hers last night. That was instructive. Yeah, so I'm doing them. I don't. My fear is what I would not look forward to is sitting behind a desk and figuring out what to write in the book when somebody comes up.
Oh, well, if that's your greatest fear, boy, you're doing okay.
I'm a performer, but I have a friend, Eve Babbitts, who she used to sign her books at books, and she always would put, "I couldn't have written it without you."
Oh, I wish I had thought of that.
Isn't
That
that
was
a
a
good
good
one?
one.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more question for you. And here's what
Okay.
I'd like you to do. I want you to finish this sentence for me. If writing, all the writing you've ever done, has done so much of it, all different kinds, but if writing has taught you anything, it's taught you what?
To love writers.
To love writers, including you.
Yeah.